we go.
I'm a spark, I'm a fire, get the start on desire.
Oh, there you go, there you go, there you go, there you
How
go.
it feels to be free. Hold my breath, walk a flame. Now I won't be the same.
Just like that. Hunting for walleye.
Oh, wow, dude.
Yeah. Good way to start the morning.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's my life. It's my life. And I'm living like the whole wide world is an open road to drive. It's my life. It's my life.
There we go.
I'm in love. I'm a dream.
Look at that fish.
Oh, there he is. Nice jig in the middle, walleye right below the pontoon. There we go. Look at the size of this beast. Unbelievable.
It's my life, and I'm living like the whole wide world is an open road to drive. It's my life.
Bam, and then you hit bottom. There we go. Doubled up.
Nice.
That's a good one.
Whole wide world is an open road to drive. Life.
There are people who know that there's more to getting there than just getting there. Who know that going fast isn't fast enough. And who know living isn't the same as feeling alive. They're people who aren't afraid to stand out, make noise, make waves, and never look back. This one's for them. The Mercury 115 horsepower and 150 horsepower Pro XS outboards. Built to win tournaments. Designed to win your heart. Mercury, go boldly.
And good afternoon on a family day weekend. And this has always been the big thing about the fishing show. The family day itself, we used to hand out about 200-300 free pizzas on this actual day for the first 200 families that come to the door, and then all kinds of pizza slices for all the kids. And you know what? I'm gonna, not because Pizza has asked us to do this, but they've been strong supporters of the Spring Fishing and Boat Show for so many years, and whether it's through the trout pond or whether it's through the door, wherever it's at, days like today, might just be a good idea to call that magic number and get Pizza the delivery of pizza. So, anyways, we're pretty excited. We had a great morning with JP. Did a great job with Corey, Chris, and Gussie, and we're going to move on the day. We got all kinds of great stuff still coming forward. We got Mike Miller coming on with August Miller, his daughter, just a couple of minutes here. But this afternoon, the bass keeps pressing on because we do have Oliver Nye, and he's fishing with Nick he'll be speaking with Nick Kuzbis, and we'll be talking to them. I believe they're on this afternoon at 1:30 is when they're on. That's going to be pretty cool. And then as a segment, which I guess is geared close to CSFL, is fish care. It's very important. Fish care will be presented to you by Jason Bernutz, and that's because of Berkeley, and that will be on at 3:30 this afternoon, and that will pretty much wrap up this year's Spring Fishing and Boat Show. But just want to let everybody know that everything that's happened till now, even like the fish cleaning, like it's constantly getting more and more hits because the amount of people. Paul does such a great job with that. But like all the segments, whether it's ice fishing, whether it was walleye, pike, whether it was just the lady segment, the crappie segment, yesterday's muskie segments, it's nonstop. I know I'm missing a whack, including the kayak one, which was absolutely incredible. There's all different types of topics that we touched based on the bass one last night, bass one today. And there's overload of information, all these things, and you don't have to watch it all at the same time. You can just watch it and then go back and watch it again and watch it again. And I can guarantee every time you watch it, you're going to probably pick up something new. But keep in mind that with the COVID and everything that is happening this year, the kayak one really intrigued me yesterday, because I think that it's definitely something you can do by yourself, or maybe a buddy that you guys want to get into something where you can go out and still enjoy being out together and maybe being a little bit distanced, and nobody's going to argue or frown upon it. Kayaking might be the way of doing it, right? So, but not to say that boating isn't I'm the power guy. I love my boats, and but one thing, being so close to the boating world, that it was such a demand last year, and you just couldn't get a boat if you went into it too late, or even order one for that matter. And from my understanding, most manufacturers are already sold out for 2021 models, which means you might be able to get a 2022 in September or October, but it kills this whole summer. But with that said, like, a lot of these dealers have prepared for possibly the same thing to happen last year, and they've already sold probably 3/4 to 80% of their quotas and boats that they've ordered. But the other 10 to 20%, there's opportunity sometimes to even change the color and still get the color you want, maybe to match your truck, maybe just to match the color that you prefer. And those are possibilities. I'm not telling you can do that. And there's a lot of programs that are still in place, because even though everybody's sold out, these manufacturers still going out there and offering their spring catch programs to just to intrigue people, to more reasons to buy their boats. And on top of that, like the outboard companies also usually have an extended type of warranty, not always every year, but I'm pretty sure this year you're going to see some programs like that that are usually good till the end of February. So you want to make sure you're taking advantage of all those discounts and opportunities. Important that you continue to go back to the site. Like I said, we got Lunker Hut prizes, we got contest. There's the weekend for two at the resort. There's all kinds of other prizes and opportunities to win by just going through our site and watching it, including looking at the marina inventories. It's all there. Victoria's done a great job on this, and we're going to keep this going. So all these people you've seen this weekend, we're going to try and bring them back individually through the course of the year and talk to them, and hopefully continue to better your fishing. So that's what the Spring Fishing Show has always been about, and it will continue to be. So I'm going to tune out, and I'll be right back with Mike Miller and Mike. I'm going to say August and Mike Miller. There you go.
On the water, every second counts. So when there's a fish at 3 o'clock, be right on time with Mega 360 imaging. Every sweep of our newest technology offers 125 feet of absolute clarity all around your boat, so you can see fish and every detail in every direction. With a clearer picture of what's below, you can catch fish like clockwork. Mega 360 imaging, only from Humminbird.
Hey guys, we are live. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Hi, August.
Hi.
It's such a pleasure to see you. I want to squeeze you every time I see you, but you're getting bigger and bigger, right? Those are Italian cheeks, eh? My little Agustina there. So, Mike, it's always a pleasure to see you too, bud. You're looking, I don't know, really professional. Not that you don't normally look that way, but we all know we're at home. I like to twist that camera down, see if they're shorts or track pants. I'm only joking, but being affiliated with an organization that, and we're gonna, August, you're not going here because we got a lot of asking questions for you. But right now, I just want to kind of get the whole OFA thing out of the way and kind of the history of Angler and Hunter TV, because Victoria, I just went off the screen.
We lost you.
You lost me. Can you hear me okay though, or no?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay, so don't worry, I'll come back on in just a minute. The camera's probably shut. Yeah, the camera shut off, so it timed out on us. So the camera timed out. Anyway, so Angler and Hunt, you guys actually lost a very important person just a couple of weeks ago. Rick Morgan was a big part. He was a big part of the Federation of Anglers and Hunters, and actually a big part of establishing the Angler and Hunter TV. Right, so. Tell us a little bit about Rick Morgan, because it was sad news, and he's still young, and unfortunately he's not with us.
Yeah, well, I grew up watching fishing shows, whether it was Real Fishing or the In Fisherman or even Angler and Hunter TV when I was 20 years old, and those are the shows that inspired me to pursue fishing for a living.
Yeah.
And Rick sort of pioneered the bringing the hunting aspect into the fishing shows and on TV. And before that, you couldn't really see hunting on TV. So we're going on close to 30 years now that Angler and Hunter Television's been on TV, and it's all thanks to the efforts of the OFH and Rick Morgan.
Yeah, and and he never stopped. Like even when he retired, even when he was off the show, like I was constantly getting like messages, and he was constantly, I guess, lobbying for fishing and hunting, even after his time, after he retired, after the show, and then I guess from Rick, he handed the reins down to Cam, and then from Cam, Brownson, and then now it's you. And then I think I'm looking at the fourth generation right to your right, I guess.
You never know. It depends if she stays in school or not. You got to have a real high education to do this job.
Yeah, you know what? Well, you don't live that far from Fleming, the Fleming campus, so I'm thinking that's probably going to be her. You know what? I'm going to sponsor her to go there. That's how much I love this kid. So, but I tell you, like, you're doing a great job with her when talking about August and bringing her to the place, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I want to stay on the OFH thing for a second. You guys have all kinds of programs, like ongoing programs for fundraising, and there's a new one that came out this year, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't understand the depth the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters has, and I mean we run the invasive species programs, stream stewardship programs. We brought back the Atlantic salmon. We reintroduced wild turkeys. Reintroduced elk to Ontario. So there's a vast array of programs that the OFH runs, and to fund all that, a lot of people think, where do my membership dollars go? But it's not just based on membership dollars; it's also based on the lotteries and fundraisers we have, and things like that. So it's pretty good timing that with COVID, when COVID happened, we started a lottery that was called Catch the Ace, which was just basically, you buy tickets. You could buy 10 tickets, 40 tickets, and you pick a card, and each week a card would be flipped over. And if you pick if the Ace of Spades was turned over, you would win the prize associated with it. And that went on for weeks. And actually, someone in Ontario won, almost $300,000-$400,000
Wow.
for spending, as little as $10.
Wow.
But
I'm buying a ticket.
yeah, but if you double that money, half of that money went to the OFH and to fund our programs, which costs millions of dollars a year. We have 70 or 80 staff in the office, and there's people in the field. There's biologists, there's field workers. So it's a great opportunity to, one, support conservation, and then two, make sure that fishing and hunting is still at the forefront of what we do. Like talking about these fundraisers and membership drives, because I know this is going to hurt a lot of the clubs this year, because normally the clubs are they're at all the shows, not just ours. At our show, we keep them right up front and center because we really support the OFH, and those ticket sales also drive a lot of their own projects that they have, and this year they'll probably be reaching even deeper into the actual mother's pocket here. So like the thing is I really encourage people that number one, there's a lot of people out there that have been Federation members that maybe haven't upgraded their memberships for numerous years. You know what? Go do us all a favor and become a member again. Like even with me, I do everything in my power. I'm a lifetime member of the Federation of Anglers and Hunters. I'll show you my plaque in a bit, but I'm very proud of that. And but we do everything we possibly can to support the Federation of Anglers and Hunters, because it is them that are going to fight and lobby and make sure that the little ones that are next to us are going to continue to enjoy what we enjoy in the future, and it's important. And like I've been preaching all weekend, especially we did this with Muskie Canada the other day, even more so with the amount of fluctuation of new anglers coming to the sport. It's a great thing. Like, don't get me wrong, but the thing is it's all that means is that much more management. And the thing is, management needs money, and education. Education falls under that too. So it's important that we make sure we maintain that
and help these groups, whether it's an opportunity to win back $300,000. Like, hey, nothing wrong with that. Mike, I'll tell you what, I'm going to buy a ticket. If I win half, I'm going to dedicate.
Hey, I'm not involved in that at all, but I'm not going to say no to it. You can give it to August.
Her school. It's going to be her education, because she's going to be the next. She'll take over from Angela Lombardo in the next 10 years. So, all right. So let's talk about Angler and Hunter TV. And the thing is we never really got. I want to get personal with you for a second and saying, like, how, like, you've been fishing bass back in the days with us. So it's not just something all of a sudden, hey, you landed on your lap and you started fishing. But the thing is you used to be known as the kid at one time, because you remember that? You smile, like, hey, you know, we ran before that. I used to fish tournaments, and I remember Mike Miller, and his nickname was the Kawartha Kid, right? Did you know that, August? Your dad's nickname was the Kawartha Kid, eh? Now he's the Kawartha Old Man. Old man of the Kawarthas. What's that?
Old man of the Kawarthas.
The old man of the Kawarthas. He's the keyhole.
Yeah, that was back in the 1900s.
You know, and you know, it was incredible how many tournaments that you guys were winning back then, and you know, and if you were winning them, you're top 10 for sure. And that was all largemouth bass. Something's happening here on my phone. I think Victoria's. I lost my screen. Oh, you got me? Okay.
Yeah, you all largemouth. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, so I can actually make sure I'm watching you guys on the other computer here. Oh, I'm on this screen here? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't realize that. All right. Just I lost the whole screen here, so it kind of threw me off. I'm not a computer guy. I think that if it wasn't for Victoria and Darren, who's right now, I got Darren Azumi with us all weekend helping me out. I really appreciate it, Darren. Thank you very much. So tell us about how you got into bass, and that was big for you. So explain that a little bit, Mike. Like, you know, what, you know, that whole bass career.
That's a long sort of story, but I mean, even in high school, you know, when I was a teenager in high school, we had a camp up on Sturgeon Lake on the Scugog River, and I remember the pro bass tournaments would be on in the summer in the 80s, and the boats would go by our dock, idling by our dock to the end of the slow zone, and I would get up at 6 a.m. to go on the dock and with my fishing rod and watch these guys go by, you know, and it was Bob Azumi and Big Jim McLaughlin and all these guys were going by, and you know, I told myself, oh, you know, I'm going to be one of those guys one day. And even in high school, when I got to high school, I told my guidance counselor that I was going to be a professional angler. And they said, well, you know, you might want to find something to fall back on. And there was no real fallback plan, and I pursued it. And I worked at Barclays as a kid. I worked for Angela Viola, and started fishing tournaments in the early 90s as a non-boater or an amateur. And that's basically it. It took off from there. And, you know, full circle, I started working for Viola with Fishin Canada in 2004, 2005, and now it's 2021.
Wow.
So I've made a career out of doing this.
Yeah. And you know, and is there any regrets?
Never a regret. I mean, the only regret is, you know, I just wish I could have maybe ventured into the US and pursued sort of fishing in the Bassmasters, but
yeah,
it wasn't really a feasible option. And I had hopes and aspirations that sort of caliber of fishing would develop up here, but we just don't have you know, it's basically Ontario only, and we have a small sort of population pool to draw from, but competitive fishing in Ontario is great. You've done a great job of carrying it for almost, you know, 30 years now.
25. Don't make me too old.
It's you know, it's been great. That's all I can say is I love, you know, I don't have the passion for it that I did when I was young, obviously, but I still like to get out there and fish in tournaments. And I introduced August to fishing tournaments this summer, and she fell in love with it, or so she tells me.
Look at that smile. It's a beautiful smile.
What was your favorite thing about fishing in a bass tournament?
Which one?
Anyone.
Blast.
Do you like the blast off?
The blast off.
Yeah. The blast off. Sure. That's where everything happens, right?
That's where it all starts, eh? That's where it all starts.
On the work and go.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot, and it's very competitive. You need a lot of stamina. Like, do you find yourself tiring out during the day, August, or do you kind of go through the whole day? Because that takes a lot of energy. It really does.
I get tired very quickly.
Yeah. Does your dad let you take a bit of a nap, or?
No.
Well, you know what?
Mikey, you ever-
When she takes a break, or she'll go play on her phone, or eat some candy or do whatever.
Yeah.
If I can hook a fish, she is lightning quick and there with the net ready, like she's participating. And I remember at the spring fishing show a few years ago, we had a gentleman came up to us, and he just had a little guy with him that was probably 7, maybe younger, and he had a video on his phone of his young lad flipping a flipping jig to arrowhead. And it's actually on our Facebook page. He sent it as a guest post, and I think I can't remember what the title is, but if you go to our Facebook page, you can see this young lad flipping a jig at 7. And I said,
Wow.
7 years old, all I could do is hold a bobber and a worm off the end of the dock and hope something bit it. And this young guy was flipping a jig into arrowhead. So that's the one advantage August has when she comes fishing with me is I show her so many techniques. It probably overwhelms her, but she has her favorites already that she likes to do and knows catch fish for her, right?
What's your favorite fish, August? Is it smallmouth, largemouth, or any other species of fish?
Sunfish.
Sunfish? Plenty full. They're a lot of fun. You know what? They're a lot of fun. Sunfish are a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. And you know what? If you had to do a little tip for other kids who are fishing sunfish, what would your tip be? Do you have a tip for that? Does something come off your mind?
If you put Pop-Tart crumbs in the water, they'll bite it.
No way. I watched the show once. Did she not want to be sponsored by Pop-Tart? I think I remember something like that at one of the shows where, can you kind of repeat that? Like, now sponsored by Pop-Tarts.
He said you have a new sponsor from the a new candy sponsor, and I said I was sponsored by Ring Pops and Pop-Tarts.
Don't forget, if you keep fishing, bring Ring Pops. Because they last a long time, and it keeps them entertained. And we cannot get in the boat without Pop-Tarts.
Wow.
It was a thing for us.
Darren loves Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, well, me and my cameraman for decades now always have Pop-Tarts on hand. And August fished with us a few times, and she was sprinkling her Pop-Tarts in the water. And when she was doing that, we were catching sunfish, but she hooked a muskie. So now every time we go fishing, she has this sacrificial Pop-Tart that she has to break up into pieces and throw in the lake to make the fish bite.
Wow. That's called chumming or something like that. It is that for sharks.
It is coming, yeah. Basically, you do it for sharks. But you know what? The one thing I've learned is be patient. As a parent, you have to be patient. But when you're fishing with kids, you also have to sort of be tolerant of their mindset. Because August, we were on a shoot in Georgian Bay, and we had a great, it was a great trip, a great shoot. But she got bored. We were out in the middle of Georgian Bay. It was a nice sunny day, and the fish weren't biting that great, and we needed kind of one more fish to finish a show.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to keep her interested while the cameras are rolling is sometimes a chore. So she goes and takes a Dorito. You want to tell him?
I hooked it to my hook on my lure, and then I cast it, and I caught, was it a large mouth? Smallmouth.
Oh my god!
On an X wrap, okay. A Rapala X wrap with a Dorito on the back hook. She casts it out and catches the final big smallmouth of the shoot.
I do. You know what? She might be onto something, eh? Like, Hostess chips. The new, they actually had. I remember the Straight King coffee lures. Well, the thing is like, maybe you should be hitting up Dorito. You never know. It could be a new thing, right?
Yeah. But these are all, they're all fun things that we do when we're out fishing. And I mean, people think that when you're fishing in a tournament, or even when we're shooting a show, you got to be focused and serious at all times. But you have a little bit of fun, and you never know. Sometimes cool things happen, right?
Well, as a father of two girls that, and we've ran all the tournaments and people always think, oh man, like that's terrible. You're waking up your kids early. And that part of it is bad. Like there's no question, I'm sure waking up August really early in the morning and dragging her out of bed and, wrapping her up in a blanket. And, that part is the worst part as a parent and being in this game type of deal. But there's so many little rewarding parts in there that make up for it tenfold over. And I can honestly say that I don't know about it. I think our family's as close as this because we've had the opportunity to work together and we deal with things through the whole summer, right? And then we get a break through the winter, except for the spring.
Well,
show.
yeah,
So
but you've put on the spring fishing show for years now, and everybody knows when they come there that it's a sort of a Pallotta family event. There's always one of you around to help or do something. And I mean, August, we immersed August in the fishing show, and from climbing walls to cotton candy to the pet show that you have with the wild animals. She looks forward to it. Staying in a hotel, going to the dinners, the pool.
The pool. Don't worry, honey. Next year we're gonna do all that all over, all again.
Yeah,
I'll be back.
And as a kid. Going to you remember as a kid, we went to a sportsman show.
I remember my sportsman show experiences. That was huge, right? Yeah.
Go train and standing in line and getting like a $10 rod and reel combo because it was on sale. The animal shows and things. Yeah. So
going to a fair, an annual fair, same thing. It's an annual event that you look so forward to going to, right? So
falling back to the getting out of bed thing. I mean, August actually. I don't know if she likes to get up early. She's on her feet and ready to go for these things, whether it's turkey hunting or fishing. But you think back to when I was a kid, and when a lot of us were kids in Canada, we had to go to hockey practice before school.
Yeah.
So those, right? 5:30, 6 in the morning, you're going to the arena to practice hockey and then to school. So getting up to go fishing and hunting, I think, is better than hockey practice.
Dude, I 100% I agree, and you're with the family, which is good. So, so have you guys ever done a shore lunch show episode or anything like that? Or well, that's good. She's shaking her head. So yeah, you want Uncle Andy to come and do it one time? I'll show you how to cook.
We did a sunfish shore lunch once on.
Oh really?
Sure.
See, she sells shore lunch by the seashore.
What?
I don't think she knows that one. So, does your show consist of mainly Ontario, or does Angler Hunter TV pretty much go right across Canada?
Well, you know what? I mean, the majority of our stuff, I mean, especially last year with the situation we had, we stuck her pretty close to home. But, if there's something Ontario doesn't offer for fishing or hunting, we'll go to it. I mean, we've done caribou in Nunavik. We've done Atlantic salmon in the Leaf River and on Gava Bay. We've been to Labrador. We've been to, northern Quebec. We've been to northern Saskatchewan, hunting sandhill cranes.
And you go to all of them, August? You go to all these places? Not all of them. Some of them are too cold. You don't want to go on.
None of them.
She wants to get her hunting license, so that'll be.
And that's too much further away because how old are you now, August?
11.
11. Oh, and what's it? When do you start? When do you go with the mentor, and then when does it go with the hunting license, Mike?
12. She turns 12, so she'll take her hunter safety course and then get her test for October on her birthday. And she's actually hoping to come deer hunting this year.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
we're gonna see her on camera.
Well, which means whenever I bring her, because I'm going to be her mentor, unless I can hire one. You're only allowed to have one firearm between the two of us, so. We'll be hunting together. She'll have the firearm, and I'll just be watching.
Wait, what if it's
I could be your mentor. Can I be your mentor?
Sure. Yeah, that way I can still hunt.
Yeah, I don't got a problem. I'll be your mentor. She can shoot a deer under my.
Yeah.
And then I can do the best. I'll get Herb to make the pepperettes, and we'll make the sausage. That's the best part, eating the animal. So, which is real cool. It's real cool. So so when does your season actually start? Like, when do you start filming, and when do you start editing, or is it kind of an all-year thing?
Yeah, well, some years we start April. I'll start baiting bears in April. We'll film a bit of that, and then trout season opens the end of April. So we'll be sort of ramping up to film bear, turkey, trout, and then May you've got the walleye seasons opening, and then June is muskie and bass. So basically from April till September, it's a whirlwind of trying to schedule things and get out and shoot shows. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is how many failed attempts we have. Like we'll have maybe a trip canceled by weather or a trip canceled by COVID, things like that. So we got to switch on the fly a lot. And a lot of times we'll just try and go out and do a show locally if we can on the Kawartha Lakes, if some of our plans change. But yeah, we're always, it's hard to fit a weekend in even to fish a tournament anymore because there's a chance they're pretty good. We're out all week filming somewhere. And that takes us right into September, which kicks into hunting season. And then we've got to do 6 or 7 hunting shows between September and November. And that sometimes carries over to December or January or even February.
Or February.
Luckily, rabbit season's open until March. But it's a year-round gig, that's for sure.
So each one of these episodes, like you said, kind of like you're out there baiting for the bear. It's not like you just show up and there's the bear, right? Or anything else for that matter. But like because we're focused more on fishing, the thing is with fishing, to get a show, a fishing show, like is it just you go out and just start fishing and hopefully you get a show out of it, or is there also a lot? Like how much time does usually go into an average show, like in order to get the quality fish that you want?
Your thoughts on this? Unfortunately, August has to go through some of the hard work parts of this. With her out of school in the summer and traveling with me a lot, we'll explore lakes. We'll get a tip from somebody, or we'll read an article on something about fishing somewhere. So we'll go up to check it out to see if it's worth filming a show on. So a lot of these trips are trial and error or exploratory. And other times we'll go to a resort. We try and mix it up a little bit and do a couple resorts that people can relate to as a family. Are they worth going to stay with your family? Because some hardcore fishing resorts obviously don't offer much for kids, whether it be a swing set, a playground, Wi-Fi, and then there's other places that have great accommodation and great are family oriented, but the fishing's not that good. So.
And that might be something for folks that if you are planning on going to resort, and I'm going to tell you right now, like, I don't know, I think that the resorts that you could drive into would be ideal place to get away from this whole city stuff that's going on and enjoying yourself. But maybe that's a very valid question. Like, what do you have there for the kids to be entertained through the course of the day? Do you have a swing set? Do you have a slide? Do you have paddle boats? Like that kind of stuff could probably be a big factor for bringing kids to, enjoying their whole trip, right? Is that fair enough?
Yeah. Like, where did you spend most of your summer?
Last year?
Yeah. No, there's somewhere that you got to do a lot of swimming, playing, and.
Oh.
Is that the one where she flew through the air and kind of landed 30 feet over because you jumped on the other side of it?
Right. That was Waterfalls Lodge. Yeah. But I mean, even close to home, we go to Merlin Park. We've shot a lot of shows down in Merlin Park in the Bay.
Yeah, good guy. Super nice guy.
And they have a pool. They have a tube you can take out and tow behind your boat or swim.
Yeah.
You can go to the sandbanks. There's a lot of places like that in Southern Ontario that aren't necessarily fishing resorts, right? Sure, they have great fishing, but there's lots to do. So that's something to consider. But I think one of August's favorite trips, she was just whispering in my ear, was
Kasagami.
A fly-in trip to Kasagami, right?
Oh man, you're spoiled. You get to go on fly-in trips. That's good. That's fun. So what was so special about that trip, August?
They had a lot of games.
They have board games, right, that you could play,
and DVDs,
and movies,
VHSs, and
pool tables, shuffleboard.
Yeah.
What else?
The floating dock.
You could float on the floating dock. Like we went to a fly-in lodge, right? And but basically, you see a lot of people think, "Oh, well, you're spoiled," but it was to show that not only maybe it's not a boys' club. Anymore, or the old guys with cigars in their mouth flying up north to go fishing. But you could. How old were you?
7.
7 years old, we drove to Cochrane, got on a float plane, and went to a lodge. And they offer discounts. A lot of these places offer discounts if you bring your kids, right?
Good. Smart.
And we would walk the aisles of the spring fishing show, and all the outfitter alley there. We would go down and talk to them, and they all said, "Oh, her meals are free. It's half price.
Good.
We've got this, we've got that." So flying into Kasagami,
It's amazing.
getting on a plane and flying into the James Bay region of Ontario was great, but she had a ball there, and her favorite thing was fishing off the dock.
Yeah, comfortable.
But she caught walleye. She caught a 40-inch pike off the dock. Going out in the boat seemed to be like a purposeless. Why are we doing this when I can just catch all these fish off the dock?
It's right there.
And then drop her rod and go and play up at the lodge. So you can't be afraid to include your kids in these trips. Don't hesitate. Don't think, oh, they're going to get bored and that they're going to want to come home after a day. I can guarantee you, after most of these trips are over, she wishes we were there longer.
She said, yeah. And you know what? The biggest part of all this these are going to be memories, August, that you're never going to forget. Or you might. And the thing is a lot of people have to look at that and think that these are memories you can make with your kids.
Well,
and,
you can relate to that. I can relate to that. I mean, it might not have been something as elaborate as, a flying fishing trip, but as a kid, my dad used to wake me up and shake me and get me out of the tent and get in the boat to go fishing, or, take me off to a little dingy motel on the side of a lake and go fishing for pike. But those were all trips that,
you never forget.
No, they established the memories that I have of it, but they also made me who I am today.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're a good person, Mike. You really are. You're doing a great job with August. I'm not going to sit there and deny that. Okay, so let's talk about when you're going into the lake. Let's get into maybe some arsenals here. And when you're going fishing in the lake, right? And let's do bass right now, because I know you're a bass guy, heart and heart. How do you approach some of these lakes? What's your homework leading up to it? And say a lake like that's maybe more weedy, or maybe like something that's got a little bit of a balance. Or I think a lot more lakes up north would probably reflect off of Cooch. Would probably be a good type of reference lake for people that can reflect off of. Would that be a fair analogy?
Yeah, I mean, Southern Ontario's a pretty unique area. And it does have a lot of fertile lakes with weed growth and, a lot of population of cottages on them and stuff like that. Whereas the further north you go, with the exception of, maybe Lake of the Woods, a lot of the lakes are rock-based, sort of oligotrophic lakes with not much weed growth in them, right? So finding fish may or may not be easy. But I think I might throw this at August and see if she comes up with the answer. But there's one thing we do before we even fish on any lake, and that's explore it and use what? The what?
Hummingbird.
The hummingbird. How much time do we spend looking at that screen?
Hours.
Yeah. So, the importance of having a fish finder on a boat, whether it's a portable unit on a small boat or a remote lake or on a fly-in or even on a canoe, the importance of having a fish finder that can show you what's under the water and what else is there, whether it's charts, side imaging, or high definition down imaging. Having a fish finder automatically gives you an advantage and lets you find spots that you want to fish. Otherwise, it's going to be throwbacks to the 80s and 90s where you pulled out a map, paper chart, and looked at it and said, well, I guess we're going to go there. There's an island, and try
that tree and that church, and we're here.
So my first approach, and I think anybody's should be, plan your trip to where you're going with a fish finder and a chart, and then the arsenal would come out. If you're bass fishing, let's say you're largemouth fishing, you're going to look for shallow areas, back bays, marshes.
All the charts. We're talking about what you're targeting, depending on the lake you're targeting on the charts. This is what you're looking for on the charts, right?
Yeah. Or even a Google, if you go with a Google Earth sort of overlay and look at the lake from above, you're going to look for creeks, marshes, anywhere, bass would spawn, shallow, muddy areas that might have weed flats or lily pads or any sort of, any sort of growth in the water, and then start fishing there. I always start fishing. Basically, going in. It's like hockey. You got to go into the corners, go into the back bays, go into the creek mouths, and start fishing there, and then work your way out. You might find that the lake has steep drop offs, and the fish are related to weed lines. You might find that all the fish are jammed up against the shore because there's lots of timber. But don't start fishing in the middle of a lake. Always go into the corners and work your way out.
So, and that, what, that's a really good tip, because especially for guys that are flying in, when you're flying into places and sometimes you just, there might not be a map for the lake, right? But Google Earth will show you shallow areas depending on the shot it gets that day, as well as all your feeder creeks, which are very important for fishing, correct?
Yeah, well, most feeder creeks not only are, do they supply the lake with water, but they usually also have, where they drain into the basin, they'll have a flat in front of them where sediment has built up, or the composure of the bottom's different, where there might be a rock lake, but there's sand or mud coming in when the washout happens in the spring. So that's usually where you're spawning. You'll see growth there. You'll find a lot of things there, right? So creek mouths, river mouths, and marshes, because a marsh is a similar. Usually an underground spring is where there's a marsh, or where there's water flowing into the lake, but it's not necessarily a river or creek. It might just be a small estuary where it's a wetland that comes into the lake, and it is just mud bottom. All those areas are good places to start looking, and not necessarily for bass. You need pike and muskie. All these fish use those same areas for different purposes at different times of the year. But if you start there, you're usually going to get onto something.
Well, and there's also charting systems. Like I know Hummingbird has, you could chart the lakes, go crisscross it a few times, and it gives you a pretty good.
Yeah, like if you have a Lake Master chart and it has the information on it, that's great. But you can also auto chart what you just said. You can do laps around the lake. You can crisscross the lake. You can drive around areas that look inaccessible and see if there's any bottom structure there and start fishing. I mean, we spend a lot of time watching the screen fishing. We went fishing for sheephead this summer, and
that's been fun.
Just casting and retrieving or jigging and hoping to catch one. We were actually fishing for them on a screen, right?
Yeah.
And you could see the fish coming to hit your lure. Like you knew when you were going
raw,
right?
I guess August is going to be pretty excited about the new live that's coming on. You'll be able to see all that stuff that's going to be coming out this year. And you'll be able to see it.
We don't have it yet. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to have it this year. No, we will.
It's pretty cool. So you'll hopefully the end of the year. I think we're going to be on the bottom of the list as pro staffers. There's such a big demand in the States for all that stuff nowadays. So
incredible demand for everything. I mean, we're lucky we ordered our new Lund. It's at the dealership getting rigged.
Yeah.
So we're going to be on.
What are you rigging that with? Only because that's a big part of this time of year, because people are still buying boats. People have bought boats, what kind of gear, without going and breaking the bank, what do you recommend that certain things you must have on your boat, like spot lock, stuff like that?
I mean, if you want to go fishing, you don't really need a lot on your boat, because you can just sit in a seat and troll or get up on the front deck and cast. But you need a trolling motor if you want it to fish effectively. Trolling motors have come a long way. You can get up on the front deck and position the boat with it, and you can also run them with a remote now from the console and troll. I did a show with a guy out of a Lund Tyee. He trolled with a kicker to propel the boat, but he put his Minn Kota Altera down and steered the boat with that. So we were going forward at 3-4 miles an hour, but when he wanted to go left or right, he'd steer it with his Altera.
Well,
yeah, but that way he didn't have to sit at the console and turn the steering wheel, right?
Yeah, and Gord made actually a whole big thing on Gord Pizer about, when you're zigzagging, you're doing stuff, it's as much as you're getting out of the wake of the boat, you're also allowing the lure to change its pattern. So, and sometimes that change in pattern will, attract fish to bite, right? Which is good. So, Sorry, go ahead.
A trolling motor is a must if you're going to fish for any.
How important is spot lock? How important is spot lock?
Spot lock's a great feature. What people might not know about spot lock is it basically sends a signal up to a satellite, takes a GPS reading, comes back to your trolling motor when you hit that button, and it keeps your boat on that waypoint, that GPS reading. So if you're
does that work just with that unit, or is it working with your fish finders? Is it just the trolling motor working on its own?
Trolling motor working on its own. You don't necessarily need a fish finder to use that. You need a puck on your boat that picks up the GPS signal, right?
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, but then that trolling motor will steer itself and power itself to keep you there, whether it's 30-kilometer-an-hour winds or if you're in a river and there's current, it'll keep you right on that spot. And it allows you to handle a fish or fight a fish without worrying about getting blown into the rocks or blown down river. It does a lot of things. If you want to sit on top of a spot and fish vertically, you hit spot lock and it'll keep you right there. So trolling motor is important. I mean, we have Talons, and now the new Minn Kota Raptors have just come out. A lot of people ask us, what's the question we get asked at gas stations all the time? What are those things at the back of the boat? What are those things in the back of the boat for? Everybody has them, they say, right? And they're shallow water anchors. Not a must, but if you want to be, in the game when it comes to professionally bass fishing, or if you want a musky fish and you're working flats, they come in real handy. Even for launching your boat, Talons and Raptors are great. You could back your boat in the water, hit the button, and they anchor your boat while you go park your vehicle. If you're alone, you come back and your boat's anchored there. So there's so many accessories, fish finders. I mean, there's 360 imaging. There's so much now that you can add to a boat that it can be overwhelming. But a basic setup with a trolling motor, a fish finder, whether it's a Lund with a tiller handle or a Pro V Bass 2075, you're going to want those things on it.
So I just want to touch base because, we talked about fly fishing, and now we're talking about electronics. I want to send this electronic note real quick. And the thing is so if you're flying in, or you're going into a resort, or you're going to a place where they're offering you the boats with the package, are you still bringing electronics? And which electronics are, are compacted enough that aren't, hard for you to rig on the boat?
Yeah, well, I mean, Humminbird makes the Helix 5, which is a small enough 5-inch screen unit that has a built-in charts. It has the mega down imaging available. You can hook it up to a side imaging transducer, but you could bring that portable unit with you. And it's no bigger than, I don't know, like a small laptop case to bring it. We were actually going to shoot a show at Kasagami last summer. It got canceled, where Richard Yantha from Humminbird Minn Kota, we were going to bring all that stuff to a fly-in lodge and rig up a 20-foot freighter canoe with a 9.9 Merc with a Minn Kota with all of the electronics. Wow. And we were gonna go to that lodge that's sort of a wilderness experience and modernize our canoe with all of that stuff on it. But I mean, it got canceled. We're going to try and do it again, but there's no limit to what you could bring with you now. I mean, there's lithium-ion batteries available that weigh 12 or 13 pounds instead of bringing, a 40-pound 31 series battery with you. So you could power anything and you could take anything with you. So this guy's get on the internet and start searching that stuff out.
So can you use one of the fish finder units that come? Can that be accessible? Like they're mobile, right? Like the Helix 5s, I think they got a fish finder kit can you bring that on a boat?
Yeah, that's right. You could bring that on a boat, and you could just plug in the portable transducer to it, so it's not fixed to your boat. You could put those. We put them on our ATVs for ice fishing. You can put them on a snowmobile or a side by side. You can rig up just like your boat. Rig up your ATV, snowmobile, or side by side with Humminbirds and go ice fishing.
So I kind of because I look at kids, we see them on their computers and they grow up to be IT people without actually going to school to be an IT person, right? And I think that probably 80%, that's not a number that's up in my mind. I'm thinking probably 80% of people don't have a clue what their fish finders are capable of doing, but they look at, and they come get a big screen. But I look at August here, and I'm thinking, here's a kid that's like looking at, like, basically learning this at this age, and she probably knows more about a hummingbird than I do, or ever will come close. And even though I don't want to say it in a bad way, because we're sponsored by them from a tournament perspective, but these fish finders do so much stuff, right? And I think one of the guys was saying, like, you can have all the gimmicks you want on it, but if you don't know how to use a fish finder, if you don't know what you're looking for, even as a mark of a fish, like, good luck to you and what you're looking for, right? So I can't wait to see what August is going to be like, 10 years from now or 15 years from now, when she's in the tournament scene kicking everybody's butt. I mean, we're going to call her the Kawartha Princess. That's going to be her nickname.
August spends a lot of time messing around with the hummingbirds because there's split screens. You can see the side imaging, the down imaging. There's so much there, but a lot of times I'll be on the front of the boat and she'll be on the back, and I'll yell back to her, what do you see? What's going on there? And she'll get down there and mess with the screens and say there's a fish under the boat or muskie under the boat. She knows what the size of the fish sort of look like on the screen.
It's cool.
Bluetooth, they connect to the Bluetooth now. So when we got to put the talons down, all this stuff was unheard of when I was young, but it's second nature to her on the boat now, right? She loves running the trolling motor.
Well, let's keep on August in this for a second. So, August, what would you say is a comfortable length rod for you? Like I know they come in different size lengths, but do you ever, how do you relate, to a person that's 6 foot, 5'10", and you're saying, yeah, I want a 7 foot rod, right? I don't know, how tall are you now, August? Are you 5 feet yet?
Did I hit 5 feet?
You tell them,
I'm 4'11" and a little bit over a half.
Okay, so you don't count. You're already too tall. But a couple of years back, you're not giving a 4 foot kid a 7 foot rod. I don't think. Does that sound right to you, Mike? What were you? What was she?
It's funny because it's one of those things. As a parent, when you want to first bring your kid fishing, I think you're sort of apt to go and get that Snoopy or Barbie or Spider-Man rod.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Those are really for toddlers. 2 or 3 year olds that are just kind of, you want them to have something in their hand because they're not really great for fishing, especially if they're 6 or 7, 8 years old. And I put a spinning rod and reel. I don't know, 5'6" maybe rod in August's hand when she was very young, and
picked it up.
She was on it.
Has she ever used one of those bullet ones? Where your trigger?
The spin casters with the button.
Yeah, the spin casters.
I started out with one of those, and it didn't do it for her. Right? She saw what I was doing and wanted to do what I was doing. Like most kids do, right?
And do it better, and
not need my help doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Bait casters now, she'll be grabbing my rods and saying, can I try that? Can I use that bait caster? And I'll be like, oh, yay, but this is what's going to happen. You're going to get a backlash or a bird's nest, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, reverting back to our earlier conversation, the gentleman that we met at the fishing show a few years ago had his little 7-year-old with a bait caster and a flipping stick. You give it to them, they'll learn how to use it. I mean, you said it a minute ago with phones and technology. Don't be afraid to take that. I've got a 13 fishing inception reel with an NV rod that's got to be worth $700 or $800. I'll put that in her hand, and she'll be walking the dog with a topwater bait in 15 minutes with that rod and reel. So your kids can do it. Don't underestimate your kids, and also think back to when you were a kid, whether it was riding a bike or learning how to play video games. That stuff just comes quick the younger you are, the quicker you learn it, right?
They seem to do it a lot better too, for whatever reason. I guess they catch up with it, which is pretty awesome. So, so we covered the kind of electronics, your homework leading into the lake. Now, And Mike, only because like you used to fish our tournament. Remember we used to have the stage in the water. You'd come by the stage. We used to weigh in to fish.
We still did it.
We're going to be doing that next year again because this whole COVID thing with the way we're doing our weigh-ins, that we have no choice. But we can't have crowds watching this year. But next year we'll have the crowds back and we'll put that stage back in the water where you guys. Awesome. We already decided that's going to happen. But the one thing about watching your boat, because you used to always watch your boat because you used to always come in with that big bag. And dude, you only had flipping jigs on your boat, and I don't think it was in a tackle box. It was like in a plastic bag. You remember those days? I showed up
once. I can't remember where it was. It's etched in my mind forever. And I had a brown paper bag with 8 or 10 flipping jigs in it, and a few jars of pork. And that's it. I mean, I threw it all day. I was taught that by some pretty competent anglers that I respected back in the day and how they fished. And in fact, the first time I fished the KBI, the Kenora Bass International, it was 2003 with Lund boats, and I showed up with a rod tube full of flipping sticks in case I broke them or had an accident. I had a frog rod and 4 or 5 flipping sticks. I went through 50 flipping jigs in practice and about 8 jars of pork because there's so many pike there.
Pork? Okay, I was going to say, I didn't think there's that many largemouth there, but yeah, I guess
no.
Pike.
And I lost a lot of my gear on pike, right? Biting my line. Yeah. And that was before the days of braids. So pork is basically, it's a preformed chunk of pork skin with color on it. It looks like frogs and stuff we use on our jigs. I'll show you some. It's back, actually. Uncle Josh is back this year. They've got some new stuff coming out.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we'll be looking at that. But so basically, it was, throw a jig all day and throw a jig at everything you see, and you're going to catch my bass. That was my train of thought. I still should probably stick to that. You get away from it with all these new techniques and finesse, but a lot's changed since the 90s, between zebra mussels, technology with charts, and people knowing all the fishing spots now. It's hard to get an upper hand, right?
Yeah. My motto is every community hole at one time was somebody's secret fishing spot. Like I've always said that. We talk about the bowling alley up in Cooch. Like, sure. You know what? At the end of the day, at one point that was somebody's secret spot.
It's everybody's secret spot.
Yeah, a creek or a river that we now like. At one time, that was somebody's secret spot until
Well, Lake Simcoe. Lake Simcoe is one of the biggest lakes we have access to in southern Ontario here, and it has a lot of shallow water structure and rocks. And August, I'm going to throw this at you. You might not get it, but what's the one thing we did on Lake Simcoe when we fished bass? That sort of shocked you?
Use Doritos?
No. Did I know? I knew where fish were before we got to a spot. Right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
He's patting himself on the back right now.
No.
No, I'm joking.
We would go to a spot and I would say, okay, there's a rock right over here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's usually a 4-pounder on that rock, I would say you throw your lure in there, and sure enough, out comes this fish, and it would those fish, those rocks, those spots we're talking about, all still produce. Yet you could see 5 or 6 boats go to that rock that day and fish it.
Yeah,
it's not just my secret spot anymore, right? But those spots back in the day that you had to put an X on a piece of paper on a map and say, okay, there's a rock over there. Now you drive up with your Humminbird, pull up, put the trolling motor down. If the fish is there, you catch him. If not, you pull up and leave. You don't fish for 20, 15 minutes, right? So, incredible. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how far technology's come. But those spots, the fish are still in those same spots, even in lakes like Scugog and Rice. There's one dock that holds fish for a reason, and I could still go there today and catch fish off of it.
But the jig's never really transformed like other baits has. Like the jig's always just been a jig, a hook, a weed guard. The head might be a little bit different.
A chatterbait or a shutter bait was developed out of a jig, and it takes the place of throwing a spinner bait.
Yeah.
So a chatterbait is just basically a flip a jig with no weed guard and
Blade.
a blade at the front
Yeah.
to block weeds, so you could knock it off of things and retrieve it but I used to swim a flip and jig before that thing was
Even
invented.
happened. Yeah, I remember Jared doing a presentation on swimming a jig on one of the tanks one year. So yeah, it's crazy how certain lures and I don't know, a lot of lures maybe they are to catch the angler opposed to catching the fish but like so what other baits are you doing? Spinner baits? Are you using crankbaits? Are you trying to what are your arsenal? So when you're going into Northern Lake, you got your electronics put in place. And obviously you're doing your research whether it's going to be pike, bass, or walleye, or even lake trout. So you're going to obviously your rods, but let's stick on the pike. Let's stick what pike walleye, because probably a lot of people also want to know what pike and walleye.
Yeah, well, pike and walleye. I mean, they you could go to Rice Lake, for instance, if you're going walleye fishing, and it's a totally different, you know, setup where you're just focusing on weeds. But if you go up north, or you're going on a fly-in or to a lodge, or you're just going to fish in like Georgian Bay, or even up in Lake of the Woods, there's so much water, there's such a vast area, a lot of rock bottom, that crankbaits are fantastic. And I mean, luckily, we're hooked up with Rapala, and they have crankbaits that dive from 3 feet to almost 30 feet now. So wow. you can tear apart a lake pretty quick with crankbaits and get onto a bite. A tail dancer is always a good bait to use when you're looking for walleye. Shad wraps are great, but even some of the baits that are, a jerk bait, like a ripstop or an X-Wrap, jerk baits are great for finding fish. So I immediately will always try and catch them on a jerk bait first, or crankbait, because it's fun. But oftentimes you'll have to go down to a hair jig, or a jig and a twister tail, or a jig and an artificial leech.
Something really simple, basically, right?
Yeah.
And they catch a lot of fish, right?
Swim baits are good, yeah. But if I was to say you're going to go to a lake and you're going to go fishing, I would either rig up a swim bait or a crankbait that I can reel in at various speeds and fish it at various depths. And for pike, nothing beats sort of like a big soft swim bait, like Rapala's Pedos, that kind of a bait. Or a oversized, husky jerk, maybe a Rapala husky jerk, and then topwater, right? Topwater pike, buzzbait.
What's your favorite way of catching fish, August?
Like lures?
Which way? Like on the top and the water and the bottom with the bobber. What's your favorite way of catching a fish?
Jigging.
Jigging? More than topwater? Really?
It's funny. I try. Everybody's different, right? Everybody's different, and everybody likes something about fishing. And when we go fishing, what's the first lure I tie on your rod and tell you to throw?
A topwater.
I always keep with topwater, right? One, it lets you know what's going on out there. Two, it's exciting if you get a hit on it. But the part I think August hates is that you have to work it so much and pay so much attention to how it's, you're making the lure move and retrieve it and stuff like that.
I like my blub lure.
She threw a crankbait a lot. Yeah, she called it her blub lure. I don't know why it was called a blub lure.
No, because I would go blub.
Yeah, it would wobble.
Yeah.
So a crankbait for a kid is great because they can just reel it in at any speed they want and it'll work. But she likes to jig. She likes letting her lure hit the bottom and bringing it across the bottom.
August, you should patent the blub lure name, because I think that's a really good name for a lure. You never know. Some company's going to come up with the blub word.
Well, yeah, I put the topwater in her hand a lot, but she always sort of gets away from it. But
yeah, I just want to go back real quick, like for length of rods, for like going back over her career, so what size rod did you start at, like lengthwise? Was it and the action, like where did you?
Well, I tell you what, a real simple sort of rule I go by is you want the rod to be a minimum a foot longer
than you.
Than the person.
Than the person, yeah.
Well, if you've got a kid that's 4 feet tall, you use a 5-foot rod.
Yeah.
Because you do have to have a little bit. You can't just have a little short, stubby fishing rod because
Yeah.
one, it's going to be hard to cast. Two,
Yeah.
it's not going to have any action in it. It's not going to have a soft tip. It's just basically going to be a little.
That's actually a really good ratio, because if you really think of yourself being like 6 feet, and so you want to kind of stay at your height or a foot higher, which would reflect on a 6-foot or 7-foot rod, right? So
yeah,
that is
actually 7'1", 7'2" rods.
Yeah,
and I'm just 6 feet tall, so a foot longer than me.
Yeah.
And her rods are all 5'6" to 6'3".
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's a good, like, it's good to know that, because people are, especially you anglers, are rigging their kids, getting their families into fishing, and they want to know how to do that. So Victoria's telling me she wants to go to a commercial break and come right back. So we just need to break this down. It'll be a real quick one, so don't disappear. I'll just give you a chance to go get something to drink. We'll be right back.
A $25 membership in the OFAH includes $5 million outdoor liability insurance, Ontario out-of-doors digital, Lyme disease medical coverage, and special OFAH discounts. Support conservation and take action for your fishing, hunting, and firearms future. Join today.
And we are back. Okay, so Victoria is telling me that we got a bunch of questions that we need that other people want to ask, not just me. So let's fire away some of these questions, Victoria. And it's Hannah Mackenzie Hunter. There you go. Hi, Hannah. I know Hannah. If you're not catching fish, how do you keep young kids interested in keep wanting to fish?
Candy.
So, Pop-Tarts.
There's your answer, candy.
Yeah. I think that question. Sorry,
my answer is wrong. My answer is going to be wrong. But as a parent and an adult, you're going to try and force them to occupy themselves with something. That's the wrong thing to do. Whether it's here, organize this or do that. August's favorite thing to do in the boat
is organize my tackle box.
Is what?
To organize my tackle box.
That's good.
Yeah, well, before you go fishing, make a tackle box up, a separate tackle box that is especially for them, right? And put up some lures in it. Not lures that you like, lures that they like for whatever reason it might be, the color, the shape, the size. And after, if fishing's tough or they get bored, she'll go to her tackle box and open it up and start looking. And I remember as a kid sitting on the dock, tying on lures and out of my tackle box and trying them. They might not even, I might be throwing a salmon spoon and I'm fishing in the weeds for bass, but as a kid, you're learning. So give them that tackle box and make it theirs. And she spends a lot of time with, a lot of times it's dumped out on the floor and I actually step in the stuff, but don't force them to, don't give them a game on their phone and say, play this, if they want to go on their phone and play a game or something. A lot of times she'll go on her phone and research what we're doing on her own accord, right? She'll ask me, what's this? What are we fishing for? Or can you eat this? Or what kind of bird is that? Give them their phone. Give them their phone and let them learn about the birds, the loons, or whatever's going on in the water. The tackle box is the one piece of advice I'm going to give is give them their own tackle box, make it theirs, put the lures in it that they want, and let them do what they want with those lures, whether they're fishing with them or playing with them. Or
I used to play with my worms.
Her worms, whatever. And
you might want to buy gummy worms in case they start eating them.
Yeah.
Okay, so just before we get into this next question, how do you feel about putting maybe a sunfish in the live well just for for a little entertainment factor? And obviously that's a good thing. You have a live. If you don't have a live well, you can always jimmy rig one with a cooler and a little oxygenator thing. But
your bucket. But you like having fish in the bowl, eh? They get names.
Yeah.
They get names. Then you what?
Then we eat them.
I love this kid. That's how I used to keep my girls entertained. Always, Victoria's first fish she ever caught was a 4-pound bass. Like I swear to you, that was I think her third cast. and it was just a huge. I was right behind the cottage. She was like, "Hey, that's our cottage," and she cast and nothing, and boom, she cast again, and bang! I was like, "Wow," But yeah, keeping it alive. Okay, so Victoria, what's our next question, honey? Our next question coming up is from Brad. I think it's Ayo, I think it is. What's your go-to bait during the different seasons? So I don't know if that's really fish related or one specific fish. I don't know. Want to stay on bass, or what do you think?
No, well, you know what? I mean, let's look at it from your perspective. You fish with me a lot for a lot of different things. What's your favorite lure to use?
Trying to see what I used in there. What was
It was
it called? Jigs.
A jig. She likes a jig.
Now, is that an all-year thing, or is that more seasonal for certain different times?
Well, it's sort of it's kind of a loaded question because you don't know what you're going to be fishing for. But August kind of nailed it, and that's just answered my question as to why jig's her favorite lure. You could fish for almost anything with a jig, whether it's a little 1/8 ounce ball head jig or a big 1/2 ounce or a 1 ounce swim jig head with a swim bait on it. A variety of jig heads with plastic trailers has to be a go-to for anybody, whether you're rigging up a Ned rig for finesse smallmouth or just a twister tail grub on a jig head for walleye.
Or crappie or perch.
Yeah, so a variety of jig head weights. VMC makes some pretty cool stuff now. You've got these moon eye jigs that come in all these different weights. They've got
I have 3 of them.
Yeah, they have an eye in them that reflects light.
I have a rainbow one.
They have a little hook keeper on them. So you put them on so you can get rainbow, black, a variety of colors, variety of weights, but a little jig head with some plastic trailers is you're going to catch.
So basically, jigs aren't just a flipping jig. Jigs are all jigs. Even technically, a tube is considered a jig because it's the jig weight. The tube.
That's right. So you buy a good variety of jig heads from 1/16 to 1 ounce. Because if you're fishing in current like the Detroit River or down in the St. Lawrence River, you're going to need a heavy jig. So a variety of jigs from any weight from 1/16 to even an ounce and a half. You can put any plastics, and a lot of you go to any Canadian Tire store across Ontario or Canada, and they've got plastic baits. Whether it's a Mr. Twister or, something high end like 13 Fishing's got some new plastics out for finesse fishing and stuff like that. But jig heads, you got to have jig heads in your tackle box, right? So
I guess what you're saying is, so you want to have a box with a selection of weights and size of hooks, right? So that would be one thing right there. And then you want to have another box or a few boxes with selections of colors and different style plastics. So, what if that there's a million colors out there, Mike? Like there is, right? So like, what would be like if you had to pick 4 or 5 colors in the different range? Like, what would be your colors? Or August, do you want to answer that question, honey? What colors do you like?
Rainbow.
Rainbow color. I like that rainbow color,
right? Black and white are the 2 starting colors always.
Black and white, yeah. And you get into the browns at all, or no?
White. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you have black and white, you're a good start because you've got sort of something that imitates a silvery sheen of a minnow and the black color of a leech.
What's the shiny rainbow one called?
I don't know. What are you talking about?
It's like rainbow,
chartreuse,
but it's shiny.
Oh, chartreuse.
Well,
chartreuse is a big color in the world, right?
There's a big color, but that's what I'm saying. Then you can imitate. You got to think of what you're imitating: leeches, crayfish, minnows, frogs, anything that you can eat, bugs, other fish. So, look at perch, look at small fish, shiners, look at leeches, craws. Insects are usually black or they have some natural colors to them. And go from there. But then, you could get into spinner baits, you can get into crankbaits, you can get into topwater baits, you can get all these different things. But a go-to bait, if you don't have a jig tied on when you're fishing, you're going to miss most of your opportunities.
And Victoria, you got another question, honey? All right, here we go. From Stephanie Volpe. Ooh, Stephanie Volpe. What is your favorite fish to catch?
Me?
Yeah.
She said sunfish.
Why is it sunfish?
Because when they come up, they go in circles.
Oh.
And you can catch lots, right? Yeah, that's
way
You know what though? I can because if you're setting up your gear for a specific, if you're fishing for sunfish, right? Just for sake of argument for viewers that are there, you're not using a flipping stick. You're going to try to use a very light action rod with very light reel. So that little sunfish that could still be 2 or 3 pounds, believe it or not, or not 3, but like 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds, depending where you're going. It becomes a lot of action on a light gear. It could just
and you know, a lot of people think you're just fishing off of a dock for sunfish, which you can do. You know, as a kid, you grew up catching panfish off a dock, but August has been lucky enough to come out where we can go out into 40 feet of water in August, midsummer, and find a school of sunfish that are suspended on the fish finder. And then she has to experiment through all those lures in her tackle box that we talked about on ones that get down to those sunfish that they'll bite. So, there is an art to catching sunfish and panfish in the summer in deep water, and she loves it.
Yeah, what are those things called again? Those little squarey things that you throw in the water?
Pop-Tarts.
That's the art. Hey, I don't know if it's still or if it's even true, but people used to claim that the Kawarthas used to have, without getting into names of lakes, I know someone's still doing. I don't want everybody rushing to these lakes, but like, are these jumbo sunfish still around? Like, you know, from there was rumors years ago you'd probably catch one that's like well over 2 pounds, and some of these lakes. Yeah,
I mean, Rice Lake has a really good sunfish population. They're harder to catch because of the weeds, but you know, we spend a lot of time on Pigeon Lake, and Pigeon Lake has got schools and schools of hundreds of sunfish that are a pound.
And they taste good.
Yeah, but you got to use your electronics. You're not going to find them in the shallow bays and stuff. You got to use electronics. You'll find them in suspended over 40 feet of water. So, Pigeon Lake's really good. Buckhorn's a little shallower. Sturgeon Lake is another deep lake, basin lake that has good sunfish populations.
So this is all you, August. You
fish to catch is largemouth, right?
Yeah. So, what's your best way of cooking a sunfish, August? Is there a special way you like eating it?
How you make it?
Aha! Finally, I come into the equation. We just pan fry them, a little bit of oil, dry batter them, and real hot oil because sunfish are, they're a small fish, small fillet. They cook fast, in literally in 3 or 4 seconds on each side. You flip them over and they're cooked, but they're crispy.
Now, I was going to say, are they more along the perch or crappie taste or texture? What would you recommend?
Crappie.
More like a crappie?
They're easier to catch and more plentiful than crappie, so that's why we like them. And they're good. They taste great. Sunfish. It's funny. I go back to, you were talking about me fishing as a kid and then tournament fishing. And I remember tournament fishing on Rice Lake. There was always hundreds of American anglers there at the resorts on Rice Lake, and they're all catching sunfish.
Yeah,
I used to think come back, and they would have hundreds of sunfish, and they would put them in like a descaler and scale them, and they would rave about this meat. And I thought, holy, how good can a sunfish be? But having August with me fishing, we started eating sunfish, and wow, they're fantastic.
So let me ask you, this is going to be a wrap-up question only because we got some more people coming. This was actually an incredible interview, and I'm going to have you guys on another interview one night because I really want to talk more about the flipping jig to the bass guys and the CSFL guys. I know would love to learn more about the jig, and you're definitely the Kawartha kid in my eyes, even though you're getting older with a white beard. But so if this summer it becomes a really nice summer to go fishing, right? Where's going to be your place you're going to want to go to? Like, where's your number one favorite lake to go fishing this summer? It's going to give you a lot of fish, a lot of fun. Maybe a swimming pool.
Well, what's your first one?
Pigeon Lake.
Speak up, Bill.
Pigeon Lake.
Don't tell them that. Pigeon Lake. Al. All right.
And the second
That's
one
good.
is the whatever part of Bay Quinte that Merlin Park is.
Oh, Picton
Wow.
Bay.
Yeah, that's excellent fishing down there. We should
Yeah,
have touched on that a little bit.
it's tough. It's for me. I've fallen in love with the Bay of Quinte over the past few years.
Yeah.
Great largemouth. You can catch big smallmouth pike, walleye, gar pike, freshwater
Gar pike.
drum.
Yeah,
And there's so many gar
dinosaur.
pike down there. Yeah, we did a gar pike show this year and had a lot of fun. So Bay of Quinte has a lot to offer. I got to be honest.
I'll tell you, I'm not gonna. I've never caught a gar pike. I've seen him. One day I went crazy. It was a monster just sitting there.
Yeah.
I couldn't get him to bite. I was like, damn, right? But like, there are big gar pikes, and they reproduce because we've seen little things up there, so we know they're. You're looking at them. I was like, hey kids, we'll be setting up. Hey guys, look at that. And that's a twig. It makes you. Oh, she caught one, a little guy.
When we were little, we were fishing on what lake? Was it
Georgian Bay?
Georgian Bay. And there was a tiny one swimming by, and we caught it in the net and kept it. I think its name was George.
George?
Bob.
She had a little gar. It was the coolest thing.
George or Bob.
But yeah,
George is a common name.
Going back to anticipating fishing, I'm hopefully we're going to get out and we'll be able to fish the Sturgeon Lake event this year again. I'm looking forward to that.
And this year, we also have, if you want to bring maybe a friend, August, to get them involved, we have all the big bass tournaments, right? So the Lunker Bowls we have on the Kawartha Lake. I think you fished with 2 young guys last year, Mike, which was kind of cool. So we allow up to 3 people on the boats, and they're just for fun. Every hour you get a big fish, and they're great opportunities for parents and kids, and because we have some actually very inexpensive to participate in too. So.
All right.
It's really fun. She's all excited.
She wants to bring a friend her age on the boat. Now I'm going to have 2 kids fishing in a tournament with me in a boat. I'm going to go crazy.
Well, you know what, August? It's important you bring your friends because you are a big part of our future, and so are your friends. So, and Mike, you know what? I'm going to tell you, as a friend, as a personal friend, and a supporter of the OFAH, I have my plaque there on the side. Victoria, can you grab that for me, please, honey? I'm proud to be a member of the OFAH. And I'm proud to be your friend. And I'm really proud to be a friend of your daughter. She's my sweetheart. And I actually have, let's see, lifetime, right there. Oh, can you see that? A little bit.
Right there, yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Lifetime member.
Yeah, it's, we're going to touch on OFH real quick. Membership, if being a member isn't what somebody wants to do or they're skeptical about it,
yeah,
you could just monthly donate. It's like donating to any charity. You could set up.
You get a receipt for it, right? You do get a receipt for it.
You get a receipt, and you can set up a monthly withdrawal for as little as like $10 a month, which is what I do because I'm going to forget to. You're going to forget to renew your membership, and you're going to get a letter in the mail, and you're going to say, "Oh man, it lapsed on me." Set up direct deposit monthly donation, and it goes to a good cause, and you don't have to ever think about it again, and you're a member.
It really does go to a good cause, folks. And if you have a chance, go out and buy a cart or the opportunity to win $300,000. I think that program's still going on. I think there's one going on right now. And I'm going to stay tuned. I just want to keep watching, not now, but I want to keep watching your daughter kick your butt on that water, Mike, because
there's some great episodes coming up. We've got 6 new shows that are going to start airing in about 6 weeks. We broke our season up this year.
Really?
We're doing 13 episodes and then rerunning. We ran the first 7 shows of the year. We rerun them, and then we're going to release new episodes come April to carry through the rest of the season. So it makes it a little more the anticipation to see new shows there. And the second half of the season is pretty awesome. This kid, she co-hosted almost every episode, and from gar pike to white-tailed deer to freshwater drum and what else? Topwater walking the dog bass. She did it all. So
Victoria's looking at me and says, "Dad, I want to go on a show with August." So
there you go.
Reach out to her. You can reach out to her. She'll be more than happy to come out with you guys one day. All right. So
no, it's been a blast. We missed being there at the Fishin Show live, but this was
next year
almost as good.
It'll be back next year, honey, and we're gonna have you on our CSFL site in the next couple of weeks. So Thank you very much, Mike. Really appreciate it. August, I'm going to give you a big hug. Give me a hug. Reach out. Can you give me a hug? I love this girl. She's such a sweetheart. All right, guys. Mike, honestly, you're doing a great job. Very proud of you.
Thank you.
And I'm very proud of you, August. Mwah. Have a nice day, guys. Thank you for tuning in. So, bye-bye. All right. So, I'll tell you, going on, we actually got, I'm just going to go quick. I got Nick Kuznis and Oliver and I coming on in just a few minutes, and we're just going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to come right back with them. I'm telling you, we're going to be talking some big fish. A special thank you to OFAH for everything they do, behind the scenes of the outdoor industry that we're just not aware of. But I can tell you everything that's happening out there, and the things that, because we have such a great everything in Ontario, it's because of, first off, I want to say the MNR is doing a great job. And secondly, I want to say that it's with organizations, nonprofit organizations that work so hard behind the scenes that really help make this happen. So thank you to OFAH and all you do. So if you're not a member, make sure you become a member. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Bobby Belmonte here from Peterborough Pro Tackle. We're super excited to be part of our first spring fishing and boat show here. Just wanted to show you guys a few of the products that we carry in store and that can be purchased online at ptboprotackle.ca. An exciting new product from Shimano that we have in stock is the new 2020 models of Shimano Zodius rods. They come with the new handle design, a bait keeper, which was a super highly desired feature that's been added, and for under $300, you're fishing with basically a top-of-the-line rod. A great pairing for one of those new Shimano Zodius rods would be the Shimano Vanford spinning reel. Equipped with a long stroke spool for further casting and the MGL rotor and spool for a smooth retrieve, this is an awesome reel to check out this year and add to your arsenal. Another great pick from Shimano would be the SLX line of reels and rods. Two cool features of the SLX MGL would be, again, the MGL spool that it's equipped with, along with a micro module gear system, which makes it a lot smoother when you're casting and retrieving. And right now we are actually having a promotion where if you purchase any Shimano SLX reel of any of the models or a Shimano Nasky, Sahara, or Sedona spinning reel, you can get one of the Shimano SLX rods at 50% off, which is a tournament ready rod at an affordable price. Next up, from another one of our most popular brands, Daiwa, we're carrying the Tatula CT line of reels. This is the new redesigned 2020 model. With the MagForce and the T-Wing system equipped into this reel, it makes a great entry-level baitcaster. Pair it up with the Tatula XT baitcaster rod, and you got a great combo to use. An in-store exclusive from Daiwa is the Kage MQ spinning reels, equipped with a monocoque body, previously only found in their top-of-the-line models. A rod to pair up with this reel would be one of the Daiwa Rebellion series rods, lightweight, sensitive, and at an affordable price. One of our show specials that we're having here is 20% off all Daiwa products in-store and online. Check out our website at ptboprotackle.ca to take advantage of all our show specials, as well as to keep up to date with all the new products that we're getting here in store, from brands like Megabass to Z-Man and much more.
A $25 membership in the OFAH includes $5 million outdoor liability insurance, Ontario out-of-doors digital, Lyme disease medical coverage, and special OFAH discounts. Support conservation and take action for your fishing, hunting, and firearms future. Join today.